and welcome back to my little space on the internet. My name is Lucy, and if you're watching this then chances are congratulations are in order. If you have just received an email to say that you are going through to the final round of interviews for the Cultural Representative Programme for Disney, congratulations. If you are watching this because you are trying to prepare in advance for an interview that you may have coming up, then congratulations again, or on purely good planning. And if you just happen to have stumbled upon this, then by all means please feel free to watch it and watch me ramble whilst I again wear mini ears, and again I'm like unintentionally coordinated, so I feel like it's like Cinderella vibes today with this little blue bow and powder blue, a blue top in a blue room. Well, Cinderella is clearly my inspo for life. But anyway, let's get back on track with this video. Today I'm going to give you a brief sort of walkthrough of my experience going through sort of like the final interview stages for the Cultural Representative Programme. So as I say, if you have received your email, congratulations. You have probably, or if not already, will get a flood of about 3 emails from Disney. The first will be saying congratulations, and the next one will be asking you to book an interview time slot, and the final one will be, no actually not even the final one, the next one will be to say can you please upload your documents on Disney Docs, which is a site that tends to crash or just keeps asking you to reset your password for like no specific reason, but it's a substantial website. And then the final email I believe is asking you to do your preference of your roles on the role checklist. So as a CRP applicant for the UK, we only have 2 roles. So the first one being food and beverage, which most commonly there's more places. I think that's usually about 80% of the programme. And then the other role is merchandise, which is about the 20% of the programme spaces. You can put sort of like high interest, moderate interest, like low/no interest. If you're doing this programme, I definitely recommend putting high interest to both of our options. If you do have a preference maybe of one more so than the other, just don't put no interest, because unless you genuinely have a reason that you absolutely do not want to work in food and beverage, or you absolutely do not want to work in merchandise, it just doesn't really help your chances. So I definitely be open and flexible to doing different roles maybe than what you'd considered. One thing I will say is that this checklist has practically every single role that is available on any Disney program. So remember to only check like high or moderate for food and beverage and for merchandise, because they're the only things we can do. So if you want to, I feel like there's probably going to be like a role for like housekeeping, we can't do that on the UK CRP, so don't put high interest or something that we don't have a role for, because you'll just face rejection, I think, which is really sad but true. So for the time slots for the interviews, they may be over a period of numerous days. Most excitingly, most of them do happen at Disney's HQ, which is over in Hammersmith. When I went through the CRP process, I think that there were 2 days or a couple of days, but basically most of the interviews were at the Disney HQ, but then one of the days was actually at Yummy Jobs over in Essex. I think they just couldn't book the room that they usually interview people in, I don't know. So if sort of that day suited you better, then unfortunately you didn't have a reason to go to Disney HQ, but I made sure that I got my chance to go back there, because it's a really cool place. And there's lots of sort of memorabilia and everything everywhere, so definitely very cool. So once you've decided when you're going, you've uploaded all your documents like your CV, your cover letter and everything, and you've checked your lists on your checklist, checked your roles on your checklist, you are just about ready to get going. So as I say, this is my experience. Again, I've said this in previous videos, I don't work for Yummy Jobs. This is just me telling my story to anyone who wants to listen, because I know that when I was applying, I would watch so many videos, and by so many videos I mean like the 3 or 4 that exist, but I'd watch them a lot of times to try and sort of get more information to plan. Yeah, I'm a planner. So if anyone is like me, then this is me just trying to sort of lend a bit of a helping hand. So when the time comes to go to your final interview day, and if you are going to Hammersmith, then the Disney offices are located very closely to the Hammersmith station, and the tube lines that go there are going to be the Piccadilly, the Hammersmith and City, the District and the Circle line. I can't hold up 4 fingers without this one doing it. Okay, or just 4. Those are the 4 tube lines. I'm going to put a link down below to Adam Hatton's video. I'm sure if you're watching this then you've probably watched his. They are very, very helpful. I'm going to put a link down to his video about his final interview process, because he actually does like a walkthrough on exactly how to get to the building from the tube stations, because it is a little bit confusing because they do have 2 entrances. So you want to go to the entrance that's number 3 Caroline Street, I believe. But again, if you're confused about where to go, look at the link down below. I feel like that rhymed. I'm definitely not Shakespeare. Anyway, once you've arrived, you will need to show a form of photo ID to prove that you are who you say you are and you're not just trying to get into the building. And then you'll be in the waiting lounge, and insert a photo here. There is a very sparkly Mickey Mouse who everyone wants to take a photo with or of, and you will get a lanyard to say that you are authorised to be in the building. And then eventually they will take you upstairs and you will go into like a little mini movie theatre room to basically watch the same presentation that you watched during the Yummy Jobs interview, but this gets you more hyped again for the programme. And I'll definitely say, even though I'm pretty sure it's exactly the same presentation that you would have watched at Yummy Jobs, by all means still look very interested, because if you look bored and like the recruiter looks around the room and then there's you sat there on your phone or zoning out, maybe not a good thing to have noticed. And again, here, like Yummy Jobs, just before they do the presentation, they will do a little bit of fun trivia. Again, if you don't answer a question or if you answer something wrong, it's not the end of the world. And fun fact about this little cinema room that you go into, when I applied for the CEP, we actually didn't get to go into the cinema room and watch a presentation. That part just didn't exist for our day when we were there. And the reasoning behind it was because, bearing in mind this was going on in December, I think, no, November. We had our interviews I think in November, and they were actually having the final screening before, before it being like the final cut of Beauty and the Beast. So I remember that the doors opened and there was like this sort of like high-pitched like opera music, and we were all literally just like, what was that? And then they couldn't say what it was, but afterwards when Beauty and the Beast then came out the following March, we realised they were watching Beauty and the Beast. And yeah, so who knows what you may bump into while at Disney HQ. And I will insert more photos of lots of photo ops, professional photo opportunities. So there was like some of the pieces of like almost like little remakes of like the Star Wars set, and a little Coco advertising thing which we got to take a photo in on the Yummy Jobs Instagram page. And so yeah, it is a lot of fun, but of course do remember that you are at a job interview, so stay professional. Once the screening thing is done, you will have chosen your interview time slot. If you do have a long while before your time, you do have to leave the Disney building. Unfortunately, you can't just loiter around, as cool as it is. So there was quite a few of us, and we actually ended up in Witherspoons for about 3 hours whilst we all waited for our turn for some of the people in our group. So yeah, definitely was not having any cocktails or anything like that. But so we just chilled there, and then when it was our time we went upstairs, and the lovely recruiter she actually did the recruitment for my CEP as well. She does a lot of the international recruitment. I think she said she does Norway, Canada, and Germany, I want to say. She's a lovely lady and definitely very professional. I feel like, me personally, you could tell she was a lovely lady, but she was doing her job, which is completely understandable. You know, it's a very serious job. Trying to recruit people to work in Walt Disney World for a year, you have to find people who are reliable. However, when I was waiting in the room outside, like, I could hear her laughing with people, like having a good old chin wag. And then when it came for me to come to my interview, again, she was very pleasant, you know, pleasant smiles and everything, but wasn't as laughy jokey, which I was a bit like, oh gosh, if I said something wrong. I literally hadn't had the chance to say anything at this point. I was just overthinking. But you know, when I saw her, I greeted her. I said like, oh, like, lovely to meet you, I hope you're having a nice time in London. We had made a bit of small talk in the beginning, and then she sort of come at me with some questions, but overall it is a conversation. Like, you know, these videos that you may have watched as well that say, you know, it's just a chat, it's just a conversation, like, that's pretty much what all of this process feels like. It's just one big conversation. You're not sat there and she's not like firing questions at you, but at the same time it is still just in general a bit intimidating, but the more you can just think of it as a conversation, the more you relax. Quite similar to my one-to-one section of the pre-screen, a lot of the questions, because I'd already done the program, were, you know, like, I already had answers for. So for example, how are you going to deal with like working in Florida with the heat and stuff. Roommates again was a topic, and like cultural mixings of roommates again was a thing, but I literally have no problems with that. It's perfectly fine by me, the more the merrier. And then we also talked a little bit about my past location when I was in merchandise. So I was over on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood Studios, which of course she knew, and we related a little bit to that, which was really nice. And then we came to my experience in terms of like, not Disney experience, just my CV, what my work experience was. And this is where it sort of took a bit of a turn, or at least a turn from what I've heard and from other people's interviews. And I think it's because the other videos I've watched, I think, yeah, all of the people who have got places have then gone on to work in food and beverage. I'm in the role of merchandise, so it's something different. So maybe people who they think are going to be better in merchandise, maybe these are the questions that they're given. But yeah, I was quizzed about my experience, which is normal, but I've definitely been in a lot of roles that are very sales driven, so I was asked what my selling style was like, and I don't really have a selling style. At this point when I was being interviewed, I had just sort of done a few months working for a luxury jewellery brand, which I have mentioned in a previous video, which is an iconic blue colour, and so yeah, she wanted to know my selling style, and I said, you know, just sort of connect with the guest to the piece, explain a bit more about the piece, learn about the guest on like a personal level, as if you're speaking to a friend as opposed to speaking to a customer, to really link and make it an emotional purchase. And so she just kind of looks at me and she goes, so if I were to give you a teapot, how would you sell it to me? I was not expecting this. I was not prepared for this. I mean, I kind of knew I was going to be selling something in the Yummy Jobs one. I didn't know I was going to be selling something in this one, so this was a truly like on the spot what. I'm a terrible fake British person. I don't drink tea, I don't like tea, and so I was like, how am I going to sell a teapot? I know nothing about tea. So I remembered, eureka moment, that they sell Alice in Wonderland style teapots in the UK pavilion. So I brought this up. I said, I know that this is a product that you sell, of course, you know, if someone wants to use it in the traditional sense, they could purchase some of the Twinings tea as well, to use at home, or they can actually just use it as a decoration if they aren't tea drinkers. And as it is a bit more of like a flamboyant design, if they even wanted to say like take the top of the teapot off and actually use this fancy looking little teapot as a vase, then they could, just to make it a little bit quirky. And she just kind of looks at me, and you know in Devil Wears Prada where Miranda goes, that's all. That is what I felt like was happening in that moment. It wasn't, but as I say, my brain just overanalyzed everything, and I was like, oh my god, like you've literally been asked to sell a teapot and you're talking about putting flowers in a teapot. What the heck? But hey ho. Again, we finished the interview, we said our pleasantries, and I walked out and I spoke to the Yummy Jobs recruiter and I said, like, is this normal? Like, has anyone come out their interview before and had to sell something in their interview? And she looks at me and she goes, no, I've never heard of anyone having to do that at this stage. And I was literally just like, great, so was she questioning my ability or like what was happening? But no, it was not that she was, I mean she was questioning my ability, but she wanted to see how I would take on this role just sort of suddenly, spare of the moment, just a little miniature test that I think it was more my brain was overthinking it, so it was not as deep as I thought it was. So once I was done sort of stressing, I thought, you know, I've done what I've done now, I'll just have to wait and hear back. It was a couple of weeks, I think about 3 weeks, and then we were told, well, I think at this point there was probably about between 25 to 30 of us, I believe, who were at the final stage of the interview. And then the 5th of March rolled around and about 5 people were given places for the end of 2018, bearing in mind we were interviewing early 2018. So this meant that the rest of us were put on something called a waiting list, and in next week's video this is where I speak about 1, the waiting process, 2, what the waiting list is and what it means, and 3, finally being accepted, because it was definitely long overdue in everyone's opinion who was on the waiting list. But yeah, so that will be a video on next Wednesday. But if you have any questions in the meantime, by all means please drop them down below. I have a feeling usually around about this point, hopefully some people will be hearing back from the most recent intake that's been going on. So if you found out whether you're through to the final interview at this point, feel free to drop a comment down below and we can celebrate, because it's definitely something worth celebrating. Then in this coming Friday for the travel video, it is going to be when I first start my 1 city every month resolution. Like, this was the first month and I didn't know whether I was going to be able to upkeep it, but I did take a day trip to Paris, and by day trip I literally was there for less than 12 hours. So I actually don't know how much footage I have from that. Hopefully it'll be enough for a whole video. If not, it'll probably be me talking about how stressful it was going to Paris by coach, and I definitely do not recommend it, but here we are. So if not, I will see you on Friday, or I will see you next Monday with my next Disney CEP video. See you later!